Welcome to MI Radio's Myanmar Today. I'm Melody, and here are today's reports. Union Minister guides people to follow quarantine steps. Relief flights run to carry back Myanmar citizens. Yangon circular railway upgrade expected to be completed at the end of 2020. Loan granted for some businesses hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Before we get to the reports, let's take a look at the featured local news for today. The state councillor Daw Aung San Suu Kyi posted a Facebook status in her page on Thursday, suggested the people to adapt the changes of lifestyle needed before the COVID-19 vaccine can be developed. The state councillor begins her status with a consideration for the usage of word new normal. She questioned herself about the word whether it can be defined as the new form of the living style. It's too early to decide for the time being. She pointed out that in the course of the history of mankind, human beings encountered the epidemics. Thanks to the Industrial Revolution and the explosion of communication technologies, daily life of all people is subject to change. Our contact through the Facebook now is the result of that change. She concluded that human beings have to survive with the ability of adapting the conditions. Until the COVID-19 vaccines and drugs can be developed, some changes of lifestyle will be needed, even though it's not the whole system of living. An online meeting was held between the International Liaison Department of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, Government of Yunnan Province, and Mandalay Region Government on Thursday. In the first session of the meeting, Mandalay Region Chief Minister Dr. Zaw Myinmawn read a message from State Councillor Daw Aung San Suu Kyi. The message read that this meeting is a cooperative task based on the bilateral and bilateral relationship between Myanmar and China. The message continues that during the time warding off the global COVID-19 pandemic, Myanmar is implementing the e-government system to enhance administrative processes. And the country is turning the challenges and difficulties out of the pandemic into opportunities to bring public services to the digital platform. The government is working hard to place the e-commerce system into the hands of investors, businesses, and members of the public as soon as possible. Electronic technology and digital platforms became a window to living a life with the coronavirus and the new normal. The state councillor's message continued that this meeting between the governments of Mandalay Region and Yunnan Province will be a step toward digital cooperation between the two nations while controlling the pandemic. The message wished for the success of trade and business cooperation with the e-commerce system, overcoming the challenges of the pandemic, and uncovering new tasks and progress in increased economic cooperation. And I believe it's time now for our first report. According to the latest data of the quarantined people at the related centers for July, there are 24,304 people at 6,195 quarantine centers across the country. The Ministry of Health and Sports has been issuing the reminders frequently not to forget the dangers of the disease. As said by the announcement from the Ministry of Health and Sports, people have to follow the health guidelines, avoiding crowded places, and anti-COVID-19 measures, and so on. Let's take a look at the details.
Union Minister Dr. Win-Myat guided the people to follow the quarantine steps to prevent and control the spread of COVID-19 through their Facebook page. He wrote that it is good news about no local transmission in the country, but we still have to be cautious too much about the invisible virus that can be infected with the returnees. Following the guidelines and steps of 21 days quarantine are not very difficult to follow, said the minister through their Facebook page. According to the latest data of the quarantined people at the related centers for July, there are 24,304 people at 6,195 quarantine centers across the country. Unyini Region Lotto representative from Takomyote South Township also told to MI Radio about the quarantine centers. He said,
In the previous days, some didn't want to be kept in the quarantine centers. At the quarantine centers, we have fulfilled enough facilities for all the people. Since the infection started, we formed a community organization with the local volunteers in the township and educated the people. In our township, we delivered a bag of rice and masks to each household. People need to know the infection that hasn't finished yet. They have to watch the correct news from the Ministry of Health and Sports and should protect themselves.
In the COVID-19 period, the volunteer organization and community organizations are really important in educating the people. Umyanteng, the president of the Yangon Rescue Organization, spoke to MI Radio about the current activities in the COVID-19 period. He said,
We have to take the returnees to the quarantine centers from the airport. We supported all the needs to them, and if they finish 21 days of the facility quarantine, we will take them to their hometown. We voluntarily tested the other people at their hometowns. With the help of the relevant ward administrators from their hometowns, they have to stay 7-day quarantine. We have seen that some have started to be careless about it. As a volunteer organization, we will help the people about the protection of COVID-19.
The Ministry of Health and Sports has been issuing the reminders frequently not to forget the dangers of the disease. State Councillor Do Aung San Suu Kyi also wrote the reminders for the people through her Facebook page that people following the rules to protect themselves from the COVID-19 and they need to nurture good practices to survive in good health. Although they might sometimes feel suffocated for having to live a healthy lifestyle, the long-term value is quite significant. According to the announcement from the Ministry of Health and Sports, people have to follow the health guidelines, avoiding the crowded places, stay away from each other about 6 feet apart, wearing the surgical or the reusable cloth masks whenever going out, washing hands often for about 20 seconds to prevent the second wave of the COVID-19. According to the data from Worldometer, the global pandemic has spread to 188 countries, killing over 547,000 people and afflicting over 11 million people around the world. Myanmar is in the 162nd place on the coronavirus infected chart.
That's the report on Union Minister guides people to follow quarantine steps. An announcement of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued on the 28th of June said that it has extended travel restrictions already imposed to prevent the spread of the coronavirus to the 31st of July. Restrictions include precautionary measures against travelers and the suspension of issuing all types of visa to foreigners. While the travel restrictions on the international flights are being extended till the 31st of July, the relief flights are running to carry back the Myanmar citizens from the coronavirus-infected countries, with the help of the officials from the Ministry of Labor, Immigration and Population, and the Ministry of Health and Sports. Currently, 6,818 Myanmar citizens have been repatriated from the foreign countries.
An announcement the Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued on the 28th of June said that it has extended travel restrictions already imposed to prevent the spread of the coronavirus to 31st July. Restrictions include precautionary measures against travelers and the suspension of issuing all types of visa to foreigners. According to those restrictions, Myanmar citizens in the foreign countries are facing difficulties to come back to Myanmar. while the travel restrictions on the international flights are being extended till 31st July. The relief flights are running to carry back the Myanmar citizens from the coronavirus-infected countries with the help of the officials from the Ministry of Labour, Immigration and Population and the Ministry of Health and Sports. Masusulai, the sales manager from Myanmar National Airlines, spoke to MI Radio about the cancellation of the foreign airlines as the government extends travel restrictions on international flights to prevent the COVID-19 infections to 31st July, she said.
Myanmar National Airlines has to stop the Yangon Bangkok Airlines, Yangon Chiang Mai Airlines, and Yangon Hong Kong Airlines till 31st July. Even though we have to stop the international flight, we are still running the local airlines for the requirement of the people. At the same time, Myanmar National Airlines also arranged with the Myanmar citizens in the foreign countries about relief flights and some planes to transport the freight. We had cancelled Yangon Chengdu Airlines in February when the COVID-19 infection started. We also stopped the local airlines in the semi-lockdown period. We have run the relief flights to Singapore, Bangkok, Hong Kong, Delhi, Chennai, and Gaya with the help of the relevant embassy and officials. For those extensions as the Myanmar National Airlines, we arrange with the customers about the flights. We refund back to them.
Yangon Hong Kong Airline, Yangon Bangkok, and Yangon Chiang Mai Airlines continually stopped since 25th March. Myanmar National Airlines has brought back 1,892 Myanmar citizens, and it is going to bring Myanmar citizens from Singapore on 8th July. Currently, 6,818 Myanmar citizens have been repatriated from the foreign countries. Domestic airlines have started to run in the country to support the people transportation since the middle of the May. Matthew Zintit, the marketing manager of the Myanmar National Airlines, spoke to MI Radio about the current domestic airlines. She said,
In this COVID-19 period, the M&A started running in the domestic airlines since the middle of May in 26 towns except Molamyai and Bopien. International flights have to depend on the government's restrictions. For the people's safety, the staffs always spray the antibacterial to the interior of the planes. We always try to provide best services for the customers. Ticket prices for the domestic airlines have fallen depending on the types. In this COVID-19 period, the customers are fewer than the normal time.
For those Myanmar citizens who have returned to the country with a relief flight have to pay the price for the return ticket. The government paid for the transit ticket for all the citizens. M&A has flown to Singapore for 3 times, Hong Kong and Bangkok for 1 time. Upaina, a Myanmar citizen from United States of America, faced difficulties to come back to Myanmar because of the COVID-19 infections around the world. He said,
I have made a plan to come back to our country since April in 2020. In the United States, the virus-infected cases spread since 25th of March. I had made an emergency contact with officials from Myanmar Embassy in Washington, D.C. On 30th of April, the American Embassy released an announcement that there will be relief flights from the related citizens from their countries, and we had made registrations for them. The relief flight has started running since May, but the flight I registered had been cancelled for twice, so I had to change my visa during these days by waiting the relief flight. There are lots of people who waited the relief flight. They're still facing problems because of COVID-19 infections.
Myanmar has planned to relaunch tourism sector in the 3rd quarter of this year, together with ASEAN member countries and Asian countries, implement cross-border tourism with Laos and Cambodia for travel bridge, create travel bubble, Thailand and Vietnam, and expand it to Japan, South Korea, China, Hong Kong and Macau, where the COVID-19 has successfully controlled.
That's the report on relief flights run to carry back Myanmar citizens. Moving on to the 3rd report. The measures to upgrade Yangon Circular Railway have been divided into two sections, the east part and the west part. According to the Myanmar Railways, upgrading tasks are being carried out phase by phase. As a result of that, the upgrades on Yangon Circular Railway is expected that it will be completed at the end of 2020. The upgrades on Yangon Circular Railway has begun from the west of Yangon since February in 2018 to 2019 fiscal years. The stations, the platforms, and the necessary structures are being upgraded. Railway-related upgrades are being carried out phase by phase. The old rails have to be placed with 82 feet long ones in order to reduce segments existing between railway stations. Zuemen reports.
The measures to upgrade Yangon Circular Railway have been divided into two sections, the east part and the west part. Upgrading tasks are being carried out phase by phase. As a result of that, the upgrades on Yangon Circular Railway is expected that it will be completed at the end of 2020, according to Myanmar Railways (MR). The upgrades on Yangon Circular Railway has begun from the west of Yangon since February in 2018 to 2019 fiscal years. The stations, the platforms, and the necessary structures are being upgraded. Railroad-related upgrades are being carried out phase by phase. The old rails have to be placed in 82 feet, 25-meter long ones in order to reduce segments existing between railway stations. Level crossings are also being repaired. Proper drainage system has to be performed to remove rainwater left on the railroads. Uzolwin, Deputy General Manager of Traffic, No. 7 Division of Yangon, under MR said.
The west part of Yangon has been almost finished so far. The drainage system has been still left to carry out a little. In the east part of Yangon from the Yangon to Bayosegon, especially down and up railroad has been finished. From Bayosegon to Yegu, inner railroads have been already repaired. Outer railroads are under repair. The repair of the railroad from Bayosegon to Busonda has been almost finished. We will have to continue the railroad from Yegu to Busonda. We expect circular railroad upgrade will be complete in December. After the railroads are upgraded, we will go on railway signals. We are planning the existing system to be changed into automatic system. The current system is also the automatic one, but it has been used for many years. It does not work properly now. The whole circular railway must be totally changed into the auto system. Towers will have to be built in Jimyandai, the Yangon, Insei, Mingladong, and Bayosegon railway stations. They are intended to control railway signals. All the construction tasks have been complete, but signal-related lines will have to be connected and machines will be installed as well.
Yangon Circular Railway's circular trains are currently allowed to run at a speed of 25 miles per hour, but they are running at a speed of 15 or 20 miles per hour due to the difficulty of the railroad. Accordingly, circular trains couldn't run the exact schedule and sometimes they broke down. For these reasons, with the assistance of the JICA, the MR is cooperating with the JICA in upgrading railroads and railway stations. The repair work and upgrades delayed because of the COVID-19 outbreak, although all the work was formally planned to stop in the rainy season. But the MR is carrying out the tasks to finish the projects within the targeted time frame despite difficulties in the rainy season. Ujo Myolin, Assistant Manager of Operation, No. 7 Division of Yangon, under MR said.
We have to change the original design and it takes a little long. The original design showed the railroad from Jimenai and Pialan is going just like the train. According to the negotiation of the relevant authorities, the design has to be changed from start to end. Level crossings and reinforced bridges are made with Japanese design. The most important thing is that no rainwater is left on the railroads. If there is no rainwater, it will damage the railroads. So most of the commuters mainly use Yangon Circular Railroad. But maintenance can be carried out in time, and so it became worse. Such a time With the assistance of JICA, upgrading tasks are being undertaken. Only when the upgrades have been finished, we can provide better service for the passengers. For that reason, we are collaborating with the staffs of Myanmar Railways and technicians from JICA for timely completion of the upgrades.
Before the COVID-19, there were 168 circular train runs. There were about 50,000 passengers a day. Now there are about 54 circular train runs a day with about 15,000 passengers. Uji Dan, the retired officer from MR who is living in the Commuted South, said.
I am a regular train passenger. Now the trains are running as scheduled and the passengers are not so many. It is convenient for me to take a train. With regard to the COVID-19, the educative guidelines issued by the relevant departments are very encouraging. I thank the responsible persons of the MR for arranging hand wash basins. The passengers are very careful about wearing face masks and washing hands. The relevant department is carrying out anti-COVID-19 measures to prevent and control the spread of virus.
Yangon Circular Railroad is 29.5 miles long with 38 circular railway stations and 17 in the outskirts. It is using 12 RBE coaches and 13 ordinary coaches. Within 15 miles, the circular train tickets is worth 100 jets per passenger, and above 15 miles, it costs 200 jets per passenger.
That's the report on Yangon Circular Railway upgrade expected to be completed at the end of 2020. Let's move on to the last report for the day. Working Committee for Remedial Works on Economic Impacts of COVID-19 granted loan for the businesses affected by the COVID-19. The total granted loan is accounted for 100,000 million jets, and it was provided for CMP businesses, hotel and tourism industries, and micro, small, and medium enterprises.
The global pandemic COVID-19 has posed challenges to businesses, and Myanmar, one of the infected countries, is trying to ease the economic impacts caused by the COVID-19. Myanmar formed the Working Committee for Remedial Works on Economic Impacts of COVID-19 with the launch of the Economic Relief Plan (CERP) to cushion the affected businesses, households, and individuals. The Working Committee for Remedial Works on Economic Impacts of COVID-19 has set up COVID-19 Fund to provide financial assistance to the affected businesses, and it granted loan from the 9th of April of 2020 for CMP businesses, hotel and tourism industries, and micro, small, and medium enterprises (MSMEs), which have been severely hit by COVID-19 outbreak. The loans were granted to 3,393 businesses, which match with the criteria released by the committee by dividing into 7 times. 45 government enterprises under a CMP system were granted with 6,312 million jets, accounted for 6.24% of total loan. 2 other CMP enterprises with 75 million jets accounted for 0.07%. For hotel and tourism sector, 340 hotels are provided with 15,720.74 million jets, accounted for 15.55%. Tourism industry with 3,757.46 million jets, accounted for 3.72%. For the restaurants, 220 restaurants are provided with 5,182 million jets, accounted for 5.12%, and 2,550 MSMEs for foodstuffs, commodities, products manufacturing industry, and services are provided with 70,081.1 million jets, accounted for 69.3% of the total loan granted. Ukianto, Vice Chairman of Myanmar Tourism Federation, spoke to MI Radio through a phone interview, and he said,
minus level
The hotel and tourism industry is standing at minus level because of absolute no income. It has been keeping the employees continue working for more than 3 months. Some has already applied for the loan since the first week of April, and more enterprises are to apply for the next time. This loan is a kind of hope when we all are facing zero income. Even if the local tourism begins soon, it will not thrive as much as that of previous year. Moreover, besides hotel sector, there have been many tourism-related sectors such as tour guide, restaurants, transportation rentals, and training schools. They are all in need of assistance. It will take about 1 year for the recovery of the hotel and tourism sector, so that the loan is required to overcome the challenges and to thrive again post-COVID-19 period.
The number of employees in hotels dropped 25% during the outbreak of COVID-19, while nearly 50% of tourism agencies declined. From January to May, the restaurant industry, which is related to tourism sector, saw 53% of decrease in income. The loan provides 5.12% of the total amount to the restaurants, but it is still insufficient for the restaurants that are being financially difficult. Through a phone interview, MI Radio reached to Uni Lin, chairman of Myanmar Restaurant Association, and he said,
COVID ကာလအတွင်းမှာတော့ဒါပြီးခဲ့တဲ့ဒီထက်လောက်ကစိုက်တော်များကမှပိတ်ထားတယ်ပိတ်ထားပြီးတော့တခါ take away ပေါ့နော်ရောက်ရတယ်ဆိုတဲ့အချိန်မှာတော့တော်များဒါထိခိုက်ကြတယ်
During previous 2 months of COVID-19 outbreak in Myanmar, although some restaurants did not close, they provided takeaway services. They were facing decrease in sales. Some employees returned home and the employers also had to pay salary for the remaining employees. Moreover, there were many other expenses when there was no income. At present, most of the restaurants are reopening, but the ones depending on foreign tourists are not in good condition. And the ones targeting at the local consumers are quite good, but it is not easy to catch up the normal income. For the loan provided by the government, small restaurants cannot receive because of being lack of necessary documents. The amount provided for the restaurants is not sufficient. Many restaurant enterprises are longing for the loan. So for the next time loan provision, I want to request to give priority to the restaurants, which are the basic industry of people's daily life.
The working committee mentioned to keep granting loans to the businesses in accordance with the announcement released by the Ministry of Planning, Finance and Industry on the 3rd of July. The announcement said it will put an additional 100 billion just into COVID-19 fund in order to continue providing financial assistance. News reported by Dora Swisen from Myanmar International Radio.
That's the report on loan granted for some businesses hit by COVID-19 pandemic. Now let's take a look at international news. The World Health Organization said on Thursday it was setting up an independent panel to review its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and the response by governments. Let's take a listen.
Member states also agreed that WHO should initiate an independent and comprehensive evaluation of the lessons learned from the international health response to COVID-19. This is a time for self-reflection, to look at the world we live in and to find ways to strengthen our collaboration as we work together to save lives and bring this pandemic under control.
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang has called for all-out efforts in the rescue and relief work regarding flood disaster and ensuring people's lives and safety as top priority. Premier Li made the remarks in a meeting held on Wednesday on the country's flood control and disaster relief. Officials at the meeting said people's lives are the priority in the combat against floods, urging local governments and departments to clearly identify responsibilities and combine prevention work with the emergency response. Officials underlined efforts should be made to strengthen monitoring over the flood situation, to identify potential risk in a timely manner, and to well-organize rescue and relief work. According to state media, Kim Yo-jong, the sister of Democratic People's Republic of Korea leader Kim Jong-un said another summit with the United States is unnecessary and useless at this point, but added that the DPRK had no intention of threatening the U.S. KCNA reported on Friday, Kim said as a personal opinion that another summit between Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump might not happen this year, but they never know, while stressing it does not mean that the DPRK is not going to denuclearize. According to Yonhap, Kim also warned that it is entirely up to the United States whether or not they will fall into a messy situation and face trouble, saying the U.S. will be worried they might receive a Christmas gift near the elections. Meanwhile, the DPRK has no intention of threatening the United States. As long as they don't touch them and hurt them, everything will flow as it is, she added. Kim's comments came a day after the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Stephen Biegun wrapped up a 3-day visit to Seoul, where he rejected speculation he was seeking to meet the DPRK officials during his trip, but said the United States was open to talks. And that's all we have for you today. Thank you for joining me on Myanmar Today. Stay safe.